everyone, my name is Nathan. I want to welcome you to the first episode of Budget on a Budget, where we teach you how to make those restaurant-style dishes for that special someone on a budget you may find in an art major's bank account. Today, for our first episode, we'll be making my favorite dish, lemon basil pesto chicken. We begin with what I like to call Southern Gold, also known as butter. We'll begin by adding 2.5 tablespoons of stick butter in the frying pan at medium heat. Pro tip, if you turn the burner on too high, we could end up smoking up the entire apartment or house like I did last night.
What's going on?
If you were wondering if I set off the fire alarms last night, yes I did. But back to our dish, more importantly. While the butter is melting, we will season the chicken. The chicken we will be using is Tyson's Tenderloin breast strips, costing $6.76. We'll be seasoning the chicken on both sides with garlic salt, black pepper, Italian seasoning, and my personal favorite, red pepper flakes. The total cost of seasoning, without owning the bare essentials, equals $3.92. Once we finish seasoning the chicken, we add the chicken to the pan and we begin to sear it. Now I know searing it sounds like a very intimidating technique, but in reality that means we're going to flip the chicken every 5 minutes until golden brown on each side and finish cooking it in the oven. So we'll begin to boil our water for the pasta and preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. To make good quality pasta, we're going to need to season our water. Seasoning our water is a technique used by high-end chefs, and all it means is we're going to add oil, salt, and pepper before the water begins to boil. So the main reason why we season our water is that the pepper and the salt will actually be absorbed into the noodles, creating that good flavor and cake onto it. But the oil is important because it actually helps reduce clumping, so it makes sure that we have an even cook. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to get a baking pan and we're going to remove our chicken from our frying pan into our baking pan. So I use Pam, which is basically like a butter spray, which is going to help cleaning later. It's not really required, but if you have it, it's definitely useful. You can also take the leftover stick butter and you can rub it down too. Works just the same. As you can see, the chicken is nice and golden browned. You can really smell how delicious it is. The main reason why pan searing is such a popular way to cook meat is because pan searing really captures up all those juices that the chicken has let out during the cooking process. And when you pan sear, you really create that nice outer crust. So when you have the sauces like what we have later in this video, it really keeps that good texture with the meat. So as we finish transferring the chicken from the frying pan to the baking pan, I want to talk about a common misconception that a lot of chefs make, especially new chefs, when first start cooking. That's not cooking their sauces within the pan, they just cook their meats. Now the reason why this is a mistake is you're really missing out on those amazing flavors that you just created within the pan. And we're going to get a real world experience when we make our sauce. Our sauce is going to contain 3 main ingredients. It's going to contain basil pesto, lemon juice, and 2 tablespoons of butter. Our basil pesto is going to cost $2.98, and our lemon juice is going to cost $1.98. And if you have the option to buy a bigger bottle of lemon juice and it's more expensive, definitely buy it because lemon juice is such a key ingredient in the kitchen. The lemon juice actually provides a lot of that citrus and tangy taste in most Italian dishes and will actually help contradict the very strong basil taste in this dish. So we're going to open up our can of Prego basil pesto and we're going to put half a cup in. Now we have to be careful because when you open it, it actually is filled to the brim with olive oil. And when you dump it into the half a cup, it actually can be mostly olive oil and not basil pesto. So make sure you get that even split so you can really get that consistent taste. After that, we're going to add in our 2 tablespoons of butter because butter makes everything better, especially when it comes to sauces. After we put in our butter, we're going to move the sauce to the burner and put it on low-medium heat until it simmers. The next thing we'll do is we'll move on to our pasta. We'll be using Great Value brand pasta that costs 89 cents. So we're going to add the pasta in the water. We're going to grab a handful of pasta, bend it around to ensure that the pasta is completely underwater to create a good, nice, even cook. But make sure you don't, ow! Yeah, burn yourself like that. If you burned yourself like I did, welcome to the first of many cooking scars. Now, while the pasta is cooking and we wait for the sauce to simmer, we're going to begin to prep our tomatoes. First, we must wash our tomatoes, which I'm doing off camera. But the tomatoes we'll be using is common grape tomatoes from Walmart, costing $1.98. Florida first was my preference just because I'm from Florida and I'm a tad bit biased. When we cut our tomatoes, a big tip is to have your knife pre-sharpened before you start cutting, and watching our knife and tomato to make sure there's no pesky slips. And instead of a tomato we have in our dish, we have an extra finger. Now, I don't know about you, but I really don't want to watch myself cut 1,000 tomatoes, so I'm pretty done with this, and we're going to use some YouTube magic, and look at that! Magic! Now it's time to finish up our sauce. We're going to add the tomatoes that we just cut into the sauce and let it cook down. We will know when the tomatoes and the sauce is done when we take the fork and we can put it right through the tomato. And that is when it's about to get delicious. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to test the pasta. We're going to cook the pasta to al dente, which means that it's not too hard, not too soft. We really don't like mushy pasta. So the best way to test it is take out a small fork to put it into the pasta, try a little bit of it. Now just only one noodle, because this is where you can get filled up from pasta very easily. And if you're like me, you love pasta. So we dump it out, and we're going to now take out our chicken, and we're going to let it rest. Let it rest means basically not cutting into it and just letting the chicken soak up those juices. You obviously probably need to cut into your chicken at some point to make sure that it is completely and 100% cooked. So now that we've had everything done, we're just going to combine all of our ingredients. To make sure our pasta is good and tasty, we're going to add another 2 tablespoons of butter. We're going to add salt, garlic salt specifically, and pepper. I tend to lean heavily on the pepper. Black pepper has always been a favorite of mine, and a secret to my cooking. Now it's time to show off our plating skills. And bam! I present to you lemon basil pesto chicken. For those keeping track, the total cost of the dish was $20.60. That was including butter and spices for 4 people. Per person, the dish only cost $5.15. Now that's a deal. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Budget on a Budget. We'll see you guys next week with our Cinco de Mayo themed episode, and we'll be cooking Cajun shrimp tacos with mango lime salsa.